Hello there, welcome this evening to our information session on Shinfield Studios. Thank you to lots of people that are in attendance already, so that's good. So it's a virtual hello. Before we start the actual presentation tonight, I'll just go through a few steps so you can interact with us during the whole session. So the first step is click, as you can see on the screen, click on the full screen button. That will make the viewing area as big as possible so you can see the material that we are presenting. So if you could do that now for me, that's great. Thank you. Step 2 is a very important step, and we want as much interaction as possible. So when the presentation is in session, we want you to ask as many questions as possible. And in order to ask us a question, you use the question mark button on the right hand side of your screen, which is displayed in front of you. So you can give us as many questions as you can. We will, at the end of the information session, we will collate them, reply to them either in the session, or we will give you a detailed response shortly after the event. So please use this facility throughout the session because we would want as much feedback as possible. And then step 3 is you will be able to download the presentation that we are displaying tonight. So you can do that via that button, the download icon button. And we will also circulate the exhibition slides in an email alongside a recording of the event tonight as well. So don't worry if you've missed something, because we will be able to circulate the recording and then you can review it in your own time as well as the exhibition slides. So enough from the technical side. I will now pass you over to my colleague Paul, who will introduce the wider team, and then the formal presentation tonight will start.
Thank you, David. Much appreciated. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for coming along this evening. My name is Dr. Paul Harvey, and I am a consultant that works with a company called Curtin & Co, and we are supporting Shinfield Studios in bringing this information to you this evening, and the ongoing engagement and consultation that has been going on now for quite some time, since Christmas, in terms of working with the community and working with all the stakeholders in Wokingham and Shinfield. This evening's presentation is an important waypoint in that process, and we hope you found the information that we want to impart with you this evening useful. I'd like to thank everybody who attended our previous session, who's come back again this evening for the second session, and we really do appreciate that, as well as to all of you who are new, who are approaching this for the first time. Please give us your questions, as my colleague David has asked, and we'll do our best to answer them in a generic way this evening and in a specific way with everybody over the next couple of weeks as we get a chance to go back to you with some detail. But I hope you found this evening interesting. This is not the only point of contact, but it is an important point of contact in the process that we're going through to bring Shinfield Studios to you in Shinfield. And this presentation hopefully will contain lots of information that is of good use to you. In introducing the team, I'd like to start by introducing the two principal managing directors of Shinfield Studios. Both Nick Smith and Ian Johnson are the joint managing directors of Shinfield Studios, and they are on the presentation this evening, and Nick will be presenting to you. They're backed by Commonwealth Real Estate, which is based in Los Angeles, which is a company that does have a very important record in the film industry, particularly, as you would guess, based in Los Angeles. And it's very important, and they are the backers of Shinfield Studios. And then we're supported behind that by a really important team, a very good team of technical experts who will be able to answer your questions and hopefully address any points that are raised this evening as we go forward. And you can see all of those names there of the key partners, the key organisations that are involved in supporting Shinfield Studios in bringing this to you, in bringing the main application now forward for review. It's very important to in many ways bring the team on board and also communicate to you what it is that we are seeking this evening. And in doing that, let me just outline for you the agenda and what we're looking to do. We want this evening to really set out our aspiration and our ambition for Shinfield Studios. What is it all about and why Shinfield? And then in the more technical element, look at the master plan, the landscaping, the sustainability, transport and timeline that is associated with the main application, which is now being looked for submission to Wokingham Borough Council. And this is the main application for the studios that will go into the council to be reviewed, obviously, by the local planning authority in due course. And so this evening, we wanted to impart to you the key information associated with that application and begin and continue the process of engagement that we've been undertaking over the past few weeks, particularly since Christmas. We'd like to thank everyone who has so far shared their views, and many of you have, and we're very grateful for those views and opinions and the support that we've also received, which was really tremendous, and it was really good. It was really heartwarming to see the amount of support we've had. We've also had many questions, and those questions we've tried to answer, important questions, and how you've helped us to date to get to this point in the process. So thank you very much for your engagement thus far, and please stay with us because we want your engagement going forward. In terms of the process we've been undertaking to date, back in January, we met with Shinfield Parish Council, which was an important first step in terms of engaging locally. We also met with senior leaders at the Wokingham Borough Council to make sure they were aware and full on aware of where we were coming from with the application that did go before the committee. We then held an awful lot of meetings in February with key stakeholders like the Local Economic Partnership, the Department for International Trade and other parish councils, the neighbouring parish councils to Shinfield. We delivered a newsletter to over 7,000 households in the whole of the Shinfield parish. So we made sure well above and beyond that everybody knew in the local parish what was going on and what was coming forward. And that related to the first online information event in March about which regarded the temporary application proposals that came forward. And those temporary application proposals went before the planning committee at the end of March, and they were approved unanimously by Wokingham Borough Council. And construction on that temporary application is now underway. So now we bring the story up to date, having gone through a process of engagement with local stakeholders, with the councils, with the parish councils, with residents, right the way up now to this current application in terms of the main application coming forward. And that's really what we want to talk to you today about, to impart to you the information that's important about this particular application coming forward. So it's a process that we're going through. This is not the end of the engagement. This is a process, and we will be carrying on the engagement as we go through the future months and expanding the engagement that we want to undertake with the local community. So this is very much a waypoint in that process, and we thank you for your attendance this evening. What I'd like to do now is to hand over to my colleague Nick Smith, the Managing Director of Shinfield Studios, who will take you through the ambitions that the studio team have for bringing Shinfield Studios to Shinfield. Nick, if I could hand over to you, that would be great. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you very much, Paul, for that introduction. I'd like to start off actually this evening by addressing the first point on the slide here. You know, who is Shinfield Studios and why Shinfield? Shinfield Studios is going to exist because of the demand that there is in the UK and the world for content. And in terms of why is the film industry so important to the UK, I actually want to start by just mentioning a few film titles, and then I'm going to ask a question that actually I know I'm not going to get an answer to, but it's a few film titles here that you'll probably be aware of. Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, The Jungle Book, Bohemian Rhapsody, Avengers Endgame, Avengers Infinity War, Dumbo, Wonder Woman, Mission Impossible, Men in Black, Jurassic World, Fast and Furious, Indiana Jones, Star Wars, James Bond. Now, the question is, what do they all have in common? And the answer to that at the moment is that they are all made in the UK. And a lot of those films, I'm sure, you know, people would be aware of those titles, but think, well, they're probably made in Hollywood. And that's one of the, I suppose, great misrepresentations of today, that everybody thinks that Hollywood is still the epicenter of the film and television industry globally, but in fact, the UK is the most important market for film and television content production. The trouble that we have in the UK is that we've done so well over the past decade that actually we're at capacity. And whilst there is a huge growth in the industry, the UK is struggling now to take any more of that growth. And there is a real need for more production centres within the UK. Just again to throw a few more stats at this, at the moment the UK is looking at about £3.6 billion of inward investment on an annual basis. And if we take that over a 5-year period, film has actually grown by about 30% in that time. But incredibly, television production has grown by over 260% in the past 5 years. And even last year, with the problems that we had with COVID, the last quarter of last year, there was £1.2 billion spent on production. Now that's the highest quarter ever on record in the UK. And why does Hollywood come to the UK? Well, it's because we have great studios, we have great talent, we have an amazing amount of talent both behind the screen and in front of the screen. So it's not just the actors, but this is everybody from the set decorators, the plasterers, the people that actually create everything that you see on screen. The UK is a leading centre for visual effects and post-production. But the only way that we're going to grow that and expand on it is if we have more facilities. Because right now, every film studio, every production centre is full. And what that means as well is that the crews are fully working on production. So if we're training people up at the moment, their only outlet is to go and work on production elsewhere in the world. So Hollywood wants to come to the UK because we have great crews, but also the government does treat inward investment and production quite favourably. So there are tax benefits for production to come into the UK. And that's why to an extent, we're seeing such phenomenal growth year on year. But unless we have any more facilities, then all we're going to do is to train people up for them to go and work elsewhere. So there is a real opportunity post-COVID for the UK industry to help in this national economic recovery. Because another way to look at this is that globally, with the pandemic, there was about 250 billion globally that was lost in 2020. That equates to about 10 million global screen jobs around the world. But if we can attract just one Blockbuster into Shinfield, what that actually will do is they will spend about £5 million a week when they're on site. Now that's going to inject a huge amount of potential and opportunity very rapidly into a local economy. So and it could be a whole different variety of expenditure. It's not just within the studios. It's like dropping a pebble into a pond, and there's such a wide economic benefit that ripples out from there. That this is why we're trying to attract all of these productions. Paul, if you want to move on to the next slide. What we're trying to do as well is to be innovative with what we're doing with production. We want to provide the best infrastructure and technology so that everybody thinks about Shinfield Studios as a place to come and base production and make their film and television content. Unless we have the best, we create a centre of excellence and a real hub, then we're just another player in the market. But what we're striving to do is really to put Shinfield and Shinfield Studios and everything that we're offering onto the map. And again, Paul. So, as I say, we want to make the most memorable productions, and some of the names that I read out earlier are the type of productions that we want to try and attract. it really is Blockbuster film and television productions that should benefit from the facilities that we want to create. Now, what is a blockbuster production? Well, typically this is a production that's going to spend between $100 and $150 million on their production. And as I say, a large percentage of that will be spent locally. On a production of this scale, you're going to employ a minimum of 500 crew, and then you've got extras and everybody else on top of that. So there is going to be such a huge, wider economic benefit of creating this infrastructure here at Shinfield. Paul, again, do you want to move on? And again, not to suggest that this iconic image will be appearing somewhere around Shinfield, but you never know. As I say, the intention is really to put the community onto the map, and for that we need pioneering technology to help us create that. So what we need to do is to create opportunities for the next generation in the UK industry. And if we are targeting that next generation, and let's just look at the fact that if our application is successful, we will have 18 film and television sound stages. What that'll equate to at any one time is roughly 4 productions on the lot. And going back to the numbers that I was talking about earlier, that those 4 productions should employ in the region of 2,400 crew. But again, across the UK, there are plans at the moment to build roughly 90 sound stages. And if one assumes that once those are built, the UK will still be pretty much at capacity, just simply the way that the market is growing at the moment, and everybody is employed, this is going to require another 12,000 new jobs to be created as an absolute minimum to sustain that target and that growth. And already we've seen that companies like Netflix and Disney have set up training schools in the UK. And we're working very closely with University of Reading to again extend that so that we can bring more new people into the industry. And it's very important to us that we do establish these long-term relationships locally with our neighbours, and we want to share in the success that we create with everybody and make sure that the local economy really benefits in every way that we can. And again, Paul. So it's all about supporting the next level of talent and working not just with the university, but with schools and colleges as we offer youngsters, particularly, new opportunities in a market that they probably haven't had exposure to in the past. But this really brings it on to their doorstep, and the attraction really is to get everybody locally involved. And this is the latest plan that we have for the entire site. As I say, there are 18 sound stages that are planned. I think everybody should be aware that the temporary application is currently under construction and working at quite an incredible pace. Having been on site now for just over 5 weeks, all of the foundations are in and the structures will start to be erected from very early next week. The site will be open from September, and there is a production coming in early September. Hopefully, working with stakeholders and everybody, we will be able to expand on what we've started and build out the other 14 sound stages. And the plan for that you can see above. Again, the yellow boxes are the stages, the blue boxes are the workshop. The pink structure in the top left is a multi-decked parking structure, and the green structure at the entrance is where post-production will be sited, and there will be a cinema that we intend to open there, and that will be for the benefit of everybody locally at the weekends. Obviously, it'll be used by the studios Monday to Friday, but at the weekends we will open it up and show the latest films in there. But that is an overview there of the entire site. At this point, I'm going to pass over to Nick Patterson-Neild from Barton Wilmore, who's going to go into some of the more technical aspects of the planning application.
Thank you, Nick. I hope everyone can hear me. I'm Nick Patterson-Neal from Barton Wilmore, town planning partner. Working with Shinfield Studios, we're leading the preparation for the submission of the planning application that you see on the screen. And as Nick Smith has just taken you through the colour coding, if you like, for the stages, workshops and offices, and you'll see the distribution of those around the drawing. To orientate, obviously the M4 runs along the top left of the drawing, and you'll see in the bottom left-hand corner the Eastern Relief Road and the roundabout junction, which is the current Science Park entry. And excuse me, and you can see in grey, the sort of large grey outline buildings are the existing Gateway building and the Rutherford Centre, which already exist on the Science Park, and an area of parking that's also shown. The post-production screening facility is shown in the lime green next to the Science Park main entrance. And then you'll see an area which will show some visuals shortly, a main arrival space which is wrapped by those thin pink edges to the yellow stages, which are a series of offices flanking some of those stages. And you'll see there's a distribution of workshops as well as stages throughout the site as a whole. The temporary site, which will be incorporated within the permanent planning application that we're promoting and we'll shortly be submitting, will include that as part of our main proposals for that to be retained on a permanent basis. Can I go to the next slide? So the next couple of slides are just some examples of visual expression, and this is an early iteration of the scheme. The design has moved on, so there are now changes to that which is shown on the screen, but these just really give a visual indication of the type of building form which is being considered for the site. These are taken the same orientation, looking effectively northeast from a southwest position, almost elevated, if you like, above the main existing Science Park entrance. And you see the Gateway building under the text there on the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. Next slide. Thanks. And this is a view really from Lower Early, looking across the M4. In the top of the image, you can see the white outline, which is the British Museum building, which again is under construction at a very advanced stage. I think due to be completed early or towards the end of this year, early part of next year. And you'll see the collection of buildings situated across the drawing. In the foreground on the right hand side, you'll see the car park, the surface car park, which is the existing one, which is already present, which is serving the current Science Park area. Next slide. So the next few images are actual visuals of the current design, which is shortly to be submitted to form the planning application. This shows the area not far from the internal Science Park roundabout, for those who've been onto the Science Park, and there's a road which goes slightly down the hill towards Cutbush Lane, and part of the way off that road will be a new entrance way forming the main entrance and sort of parking and access arrangement into the studios. And this will be framed, if you will, by a series of offices which will articulate that entrance. That will be attractively landscaped. It will provide a focal feature to the studio entrance. Next slide. This is another image, just a slightly different angle, gives you a different impression with the parking and access arrangements for visitors and so on. And then the main entrance way through into sort of the studio, the working area, if you like, behind the main entrance. Next slide. And this is just a shot from ground level, similar angle, but taken at night, just indicating the activity and the impression at that time of the day. Next slide. So then just taking a step back to some of the strategies, particularly in terms of landscape, which of course is a very important part of all planning applications. There are some important features on the site that we're looking to retain. There is Pearman's Lane, for those of you who are familiar with the area, which bisects the site, which is shown in the darkest sort of racing colour green, running from the M4 down to Cutbush Lane, which is a line of an old road that was cut off when the M4 was constructed. That's a well-treed line which runs through the site, and that is going to be retained with one connecting road cutting across that within the site. And there'll be other landscaped areas around the margins of the motorway edge, but also along Cutbush Lane itself on both sides. And we're splitting, as you can see on the screen, the site into various zones. So the first zone will be a natural landscaped edge to complement the existing trees and vegetation which exists. The arrival zone, which is the one I showed you in the last few images, which is very close to the internal science park roundabout, will be an area of activity, but we'll be looking for specific experience and landscaping to suit that area. And then Pearman's Lane will be really about protecting that existing landscape wildlife corridor. And then again, around the margins of the entrance, there is, of course, an existing wooded area, which is shown in white because it's not in our site, but it's very near the gateway building. But it's that white area which protrudes almost like a thumb on the left-hand side of the drawing. So there's, of course, that area of woodland, which, of course, will remain. Next slide. These are just a few precedent images of the type of landscaping planting which is being considered for the different zones. In order to create some distinction and differentiation, we'll be looking at native species and a series of different plants and wildflower planting and grassland areas to improve the biodiversity of the site as a whole. One of the requirements, of course, of all planning applications now is a biodiversity net gain, and the standard is to achieve a 10% net gain in the proposals, which is what we'll be seeking to achieve. Next slide. In terms of sustainability, this covers a myriad of different aspects, and there's a summary of some of the main principles on the screen. The application will be supported by an energy and sustainability strategy, and that will outline the approach to energy consumption within the buildings. As you might appreciate, and I think for those who were present on the previous presentation, the very nature of the buildings, particularly the sound stages, is very efficient structures, very thermally efficient, given the end use. The council's policies require a proportion of energy to be provided on site by renewable sources, and we'll seek to achieve that through a combination of air source heat pumps and also solar power through PV cells on some of the roofs of buildings. Importantly, there'll be no gas required for the proposal, so there'll be no fossil fuels being burned, if you like, on the site itself. So the requirements really be provided through the electricity through the national grid. There'll be a waste management strategy that supports the planning application, and there'll be a real emphasis on promoting recycling and minimisation of waste, both in the construction process and, of course, in the end use as well. And water consumption is not particularly significant for the proposal, but again, we'll be looking at both the quality of water which exists and falls, of course, through rain on the site, and how that's attenuated through our drainage strategy, but also the water supply and the standards of water consumption will be sought to be kept to a minimum. And then, as I mentioned already, biodiversity and wildlife is an important part of all planning applications, and the planting has been worked up, the planting design in consultation with the team ecologists to ensure that it's of maximum benefit to local wildlife species. And as I say, we'll be seeking to demonstrate 10% biodiversity net gain as a consequence of the proposal. All buildings will seek to achieve a BREEAM excellent rating, which is a standard for the assessment of the sustainable construction of buildings, which is an industry standard, and those pre-assessments will be submitted in support of the planning application, so people will be able to view the details of those in due course. Next slide. In terms of transport, which obviously again was an important part of the proposals, the diagram shows the existing Eastern Relief Road in the bottom left corner, in grey, the existing roundabout, which is the main science park entrance. And for those who are familiar, the road then goes into what I call the internal science park roundabout at the eastern end of the gateway building. And then there's an existing road which serves the surface car park, and that's shown with a black line. That road will be used to gain access to the decked parking area, which Nick Smith alluded to, the pink structure next to the M4. And then also the arrival space, which is shown with the the sort of orange area with a sort of loop as one enters into the site. If you go into the internal science park roundabout, then turn right as if you're going downhill towards Cutbush Lane, but then immediately on the left will be that main arrival space, main entrance, with a secondary access point to an office which is on the opposite side of that road. But that will be the main point of entrance into the site as a whole. The southern site, which is under construction, of course, has its own access directly off Cutbush Lane, which has been formed as part of that construction process. Parking areas are distributed quite evenly around the site. They're predominantly surface parking, but with one exception, that decked area, which is next to the M4. So as I say, the access strategy is, of course, for vehicular traffic to come in through the science park, from the science park roundabout into the site. And there's no access to the southern or sort of southwestern section of Cutbush Lane. The works which are ongoing at the moment to support the British Museum proposal will prohibit the through movement of vehicular traffic, and you can see the no entry symbol in red on the drawing. And those works are taking place at the moment to still allow pedestrians and cyclists to carry through there, but not vehicles. So to get to that eastern end of Cutbush Lane, to the temporary planning permission site, but also the British Museum, access will only be allowed by vehicles through the science park itself, and that's how this proposal will be served. There will be electric charging points situated throughout the various car parks, and sheltered and secure cycle parking in accordance with the council standards. There will be improvements to pedestrian and cycle measures both within the site and along Cutbush Lane, bearing in mind obviously the importance of the cycle and pedestrian link across the old overbridge down into Lower Early Way to the northeast. Next slide. And then I think that's the point where I hand over to Ian Johnson.
Yes, thanks, Nick. This is really by way of a recap. As Nick Smith said right at the top, the most exciting thing of this is that Shinfield will become a destination for international film production. So Shinfield in due course, I think, will become as synonymous with filmmaking as certainly Pinewood and potentially Hollywood. We will bring in very substantial inward investment. As Nick mentioned, a single production will generate, in the region of £100 million worth of spend, and probably employ 500 or 600 people directly on that production. And that's before counting the probably equal amount of employment generated around and about as a result of, so all of the service businesses that will be supporting the productions directly. So that obviously equates to a very significant opportunity for new employment. The productions, Shinfield Studios is, must be thought of more as a facilitator. The productions themselves are the businesses that create the employment, but around and about in the area, there will undoubtedly be a huge amount of opportunity for employment and indeed spend, in shops and restaurants and all of the service providers locally. Of course, it's a fantastic story for the national economy as well. The government has been very vocal in its support for the creative services industries, and in post-COVID, coming out as we are tentatively from the lockdown, this is one sector that is expected to generate a disproportionate amount of inbound activity for the UK economy. So you've probably seen and heard of the Great Britain campaign. This is very, very much in line with that, and very much in line with the government's aspirations for the UK, not just post-COVID, but of course post-Brexit as well. As Nick mentioned, the opportunity for working with local schools and higher education institutes to develop partnerships, to bring on the talent, which is a hugely important piece of the jigsaw alongside the new facilities. That is hugely important, and we'll be doing that outreach work over the summer to build a number of those partnerships. As Nick Patterson mentioned, the infrastructure around the site is expected to be very sustainable. The local bus routes and cycles, as mentioned, and hugely important is sustainability in the development. You know, the solar panel, the recycling, etc., etc. So I think, you know, the real message, this is a hugely exciting opportunity for the local community, and you know, we look forward to revealing more over the coming months. Do you want to move on, Paul?
Thank you, Ian. So moving on to the timeline now, work has begun on the temporary application that has been approved, and you will see that work ongoing over the next few months. But this timeline gives you an idea of the process that will be undertaken and going forward. And Nick will join me on this slide as we just talk through this with you. In terms of today, holding the event this evening, there will then, following this event, be the submission of the main application in this month of May. And that will then go into the local planning authority for consideration. The aim of that will hopefully go to a planning committee later this year, and that will give us time not only just to have the planning application reviewed carefully by the LPA, but also for us to continue our ongoing consultation, for example, with local schools, or outreach to local colleges, or building the relationships with the local groups that want to be involved in terms of, for example, Reading University's links through their School of Film and Television. So there's a variety of relationships that we want to build and work with, for example, with the local economic partnership, which we know have many links into many local business communities in the area. And that work will be ongoing over the next months as we go up to the planning committee. And where planning permission to be granted, then construction would begin. And following construction, the timeline really aims to take us through to the autumn of 2023 to complete the project and to have the studios in full operation. But of course, as Nick alluded to, hopefully this September, we'll see the first production come onto the temporary application site, which we hope will also receive full permission through this process of the main application. So there's quite a way to go. There's quite a timeline to follow through. There's an awful lot of work to be done. There's an awful lot of engagement to be done as well. And this is an ongoing process. This thing's going to evolve. It's going to change and develop as we work with everybody and we grow with you the opportunity that Shinfield Studios presents. Nick, would you like to add anything more to that, or is that really just covers that kind of timeline, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, I think that's well surmised, Paul. You know, I think the main point for me is that this is hopefully seen as a huge benefit to Shinfield, and it will bring and create something we hope that everybody locally can be proud of. But you know, by no means are we taking this for granted. We need to work with everybody throughout the next few months and beyond in order to put everything that we've said tonight into place, and really drive hopefully towards the autumn when we can actually start constructing something that, as I say, everybody locally will be proud of, and it will put Shinfield on the map. So yes, thank you for your time, everybody, this evening.
We've had a whole series of questions that have come into us, and we do intend to answer them one by one, so you will get a response back to the question that you yourself has asked. But in some general terms, I'll try and pick up some questions now, and the team, we can go through these together in terms of answering them. One of the main themes of question that's come through is what's the relationship between the studio and the production companies, particularly in terms of jobs and in terms of where recruitment might be coming from in the future, and how does that relationship work?
Do you want me to take that one, Paul?
Please, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so what we're creating is a hub, a centre of excellence, a place where people can congregate to make their projects. So Shinfield Studios will directly employ a number of people, but the vast majority of people will be employed by production. So, I mean, let's just take as an example, and this is by no means suggesting what will ultimately happen, but if, for example, we had a Netflix production that was coming onto the lot, then we would be talking to Netflix about the types of roles that they were looking to fill. Now, they will have people that move around on Netflix productions, but we all know that they want to employ people locally because they don't want the expense of paying people to travel. So they will come to us and say that we're looking for X, Y, and Z, and it will hopefully be that we have training programs established either with Netflix directly or with the university or local schools where we can take people in either at a graduate level, at an apprenticeship level, or people who are more experienced. But the intention would be, whether it's us directly or us working with the production, or it could even be with the Production Guild, which is the body in the UK that handles a lot of freelance crew. But the aim would be to place people locally as best we can on production, because that's what everybody wants.
And I guess that would repeat itself, Nick, wouldn't it, from production to production that comes in, I'm guessing, in terms of
it does.
Pool of talent.
It's a strange thing, though, because once people start working on production, then and you have a bit of experience, actually you decide as an individual then what it is that you want to do. And actually you might find that you're working with a producer and you've built a rapport, and that producer's gone off to work in Canada on his next show, and he might say, do you want to come with me? And the chances are you might go. So even though you live in Shinfield, it gives you a great opportunity to go and work internationally. So as much as we want people to stay, people do go. But then what that does is that opens up the opportunity for the next person to come through. And that's how the industry evolves.
Thank you, Nick. Nick Patterson-Neil, can I ask you a question in terms of Cutbush Lane? People are asking in terms of the public accessibility of Cutbush Lane and across the M4 bridge. Is that due to be maintained, and how might those access routes be improved?
Thanks, Paul. The current arrangement will be maintained, which is foot and cycle only over the M4, so no plan to make any change to that in terms of the types of users. The proposals will promote improvements to foot and cycleway provision along Cutbush Lane itself, so between the Science Park exit, if you like, onto Cutbush Lane in front of the what is the construction site for the temporary proposal, eastwards towards the British Museum. So along there, we'll be promoting improvements to the foot and cycleways along there. So that will all help to integrate the site still further into what is an increasingly well catered arrangement of foot and cycle connections in the local area.
Could you say something about the bus routes as well, Nick?
Yeah, I was about to say, would you like to pick up on that? I saw a question on that. So as many will know, there are the site's already served by the number 8 service, Reading Buses service, which enters the site and runs between the roundabouts within the Science Park. Of course, Shinfield is also served by the number 3 service. So there are good services. Obviously, those have been slightly reduced in their frequency, of course, in recent times. But at the heart of the bus and public transport strategy, which has been developed alongside the south of M4 strategic housing area to the immediate west, and also supported by the Science Park, is the creation of a bi-directional bus service, which ultimately will loop along the Shinfield Road corridor and across through via Shinfield and Spencerwood to the Basingstoke Road corridor, and provide a bi-directional route in and out of those 2 road corridors into the centre of Reading, with a frequency at present, I understand, it around 30 minutes, but that has the potential to increase still further. So there's good public transport provision which already exists and is likely to increase in its frequency in the future. So the site's very accessible to a range of means of travel.
And what will the parking be like on site, Nick, in terms of capacity for parking, set against potentially anybody parking off site, so to speak? Can that be managed? Sure. How would it be managed?
Absolutely. I mean, there'll be likely obviously parking management arrangements for the site itself, but in terms of quantity of parking, we're in the region of around 1,350 parking spaces distributed around the site, as I mentioned earlier, in different areas. So the site will be well catered for, and the level of parking provision has been assessed, looking very carefully at other film studios, such as Pinewood and Shepperton, and looking at the transport profile of those sites as good comparables in terms of how those sites operate. So that's been looked at very carefully, and the assessment of traffic impact will support the planning application has been undertaken in accordance with the Council's transport modelling approach to major planning applications. So there'll be quite a lot of detail which will be part of the transport strategy supporting the planning application.
And that will involve EV charging points, won't it? Just to confirm that point.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, working in Borough Council would require that now as a matter of standard in all projects, but it's clearly something. It's the way transport is going, clearly, increasingly a reliance on electric vehicles. So that's very much the future, and that's what we want to plan very much into this development.
In terms of the landscaping, Nick, in terms of what's being proposed, really around the idea of trees and the idea of other planting, will it be mature trees? Will it be that sort of level of landscaping that's proposed as part of the site in terms of the bits that are being considered?
There'll be a mixture of sizes of planting when it's first put in, but the opportunity is there for trees to be planted, which will allow their growth to obviously fully mature specimens to complement the significant number of trees which exist around the margins of the site or along Pearman's Lane, which will be retained. So we'll be looking to complement, retain as much as we can of what's there, as indicated by the landscape drawing, and look to supplement that with additional planting in some of those key areas, particularly around Cutbush Lane, frontage in those areas which are publicly visible, but also along, where it's possible, along the edge of the motorway around those margins of the site. So it's very much in the heart of the proposals, and because the application that we shortly will submit will be in full detail, there will be fully detailed landscape plans which will show both the specimens that we propose and the location of each of the planting areas.
I'm right in saying, aren't I, that the site, in terms of what was proposed as Thames Valley Science Park, already has a planning permission, and that necessarily the transport implications here are slightly different because the film studios won't generate as much traffic as was originally conceived as part of the original consent, and that's a fairly important point for the local network, isn't it, I think?
That's right, and the infrastructure which has already been put in place caters for the permission that was granted in 2017, which was for the second phase of the science park. So what exists at the moment is 2 buildings of ultimately what will be 4 buildings, which forms the first phase of the science park. But beyond that which is already present, there was a permission for another 600,000 square feet of space, supported by a transport assessment at the time. Whilst obviously we've looked again at the transport impact, as is rightly so, given the time has moved on, and we've looked at that afresh. What is quite clear is that the nature of the use here has quite a different profile across the working day. It has less pronounced peak travel demand periods because of the way that the studios operate. They tend to operate very long days, which Nick Smith will be in a better position to explain. But because of the costs involved in filming, they want to maximise the time in which they spend in the studios, and therefore people come at different times of the day and not solely sort of 8 till 9 a.m. and sort of 5 till 6 p.m. in the evening. So all of that really helps in terms of smoothing out travel impact on surrounding roads. But as I say, the transport assessment will demonstrate the impact of the development and how the infrastructure is sufficient to accommodate the proposals.
Thank you, Nick. Nick Smith, can I ask, in terms of the impact on the local economy, people are asking about the value of that in a local sense to Shinfield. We've spoken about the national economy, we've spoken about productions coming in. What sort of impact do you think the immediate local economy of Shinfield will benefit from the investment and from the studios?
Well, so the best way to describe it at the moment is the ripple effect, the pebble in the pond, that the ripples do extend quite far and wide, and there are a lot of touch points. It's quite difficult to put an amount on it or a percentage on it, because it clearly is going to vary quite significantly from production to production. But if you think local, what's a good example? Whether somebody's already said restaurants and catering facilities, hotels, travel agents might be a good one. So local travel agents, for example, could benefit. If we've got a production and all of a sudden they need to go off and shoot somewhere else in the world, that's a huge number of people that needs to be catered for. It is there is quite a wide variety, and again, it comes back to that effect of taking on people locally, not just on the production, but some of the businesses that need to come in to support production. So it could be lighting companies come in, companies providing Winnebagos, the trailers where actors and crew spend a lot of time. But these people all need to employ others to help them locally. So there's that type of benefit as well in terms of other employment opportunities that you might not readily associate with this type of project that only come to the fore. So there is a significant benefit, is the only way I can really put it. I can't quantify it at the moment.
And in terms of how the studio stages will work themselves, people have talked about the noise implications, and there is quite an important point, isn't it, about the way these sound stages actually operate and what the productions need in terms of noise, I think, isn't there?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we're having to design the interior of the sound stage. I mean, they're called sound stages. The idea is that you can go inside and shut the doors, and you could almost set off a hand grenade and nobody's going to hear it outside. That's the whole point, really. They can't have transference of noise from either inside out or outside in. So if you think on a busy site, there might be forklift trucks driving around delivering. And as most people know locally, lorries these days, when they reverse, have that really annoying bleep. Well, you can't have any of that noise that's transferred through the walls. And equally, as I say, nothing that you do inside you want to come out. I mean, the other interesting thing about noise these days is an awful lot of noise is put on afterwards. So if we were filming outside, as an example, and there was an explosion, the chances are that you would see an explosion, but you wouldn't hear it because that noise is done in post-production. So there isn't a huge amount of noise that one needs to be concerned about.
And in terms of the schools, in terms of some of the apprenticeship elements that are being talked about, what sort of relationship are you looking for with those schools and potentially with the apprenticeships, maybe with some of the local colleges or with the council's employment programme that they're looking for?
Well, I think one of the key things that we have to do is to inspire people to want to work in this industry, because I'm sure if I went into a school today and said, well, what do we think that working on a film set or in a film studio, working in film entails? A lot of people are immediately going to think that it means that you are in front of a camera and you are being filmed and you have some dialogue, but that is really just the tip of the iceberg. And there's a huge drive from so many different areas. I've already touched on areas like post-production. You've got visual effects, the people that make the explosions. You've got people that make costumes. You've got there's a great area called set decoration. So I don't know if people saw the last iteration of Mary Poppins that came out, but that was filmed across various seasons. So you go onto a set and you will see a tree on a set that doesn't have any leaves on it. In the next shot, you'll see a tree, the same tree, that's got leaves on it. Well, that's set decoration. Somebody physically goes and puts the leaves on the tree. It's not filmed at a different time. It could be the week after. And set decoration is physically doing things to change an appearance. It's a hugely talented job, but there's just aren't many people that are even aware of it or know how to get into it. So we're providing such a broad range of opportunities at every level. And the beauty of the people that come and work on a film set is that they become incredibly talented. You think of some of the great film sets things that you might have seen on camera. The vast majority of that is created by very talented carpenters and plasterers, molding and creating, and costume makers. I mean, there's such a wide variety of talent and broad opportunities for everybody to get involved in. But coming back to your question, Paul, the first question I think for most people is just, well, how do I get into the industry? Well, now hopefully we've got something on the doorstep and people that can help you with that.
It's in terms of the links with those schools and local colleges, building those relationships that will be obviously for the longer term, will enable those institutions to work with you to do that very thing. I'm guessing there'll be relationships that you want to grow and develop over the next few years.
That's right. That's right. Yes.
That's great. In terms of production experience, I mean, you know, your interaction, obviously your background, Nick, in terms of Pinewood, there will be relationships, won't there, beyond just Shinfield? And people are saying here, you know, how does that work? I mean, the UK industry is growing, and Shinfield will have a critical part to play in that broader UK industry. And there will be relationships with the studios as well, won't there? It's not just an island in isolation.
Oh no, far from it. I mean, this is the point that I was really referring to before. That once you're on a production and you're working for Netflix or Disney or Universal, you know, you become known to them, and then they'll go off and they'll make a different project. It might be at Shinfield, it might be in the UK, it might be abroad, but you know, you are a named person that they can rely on, and the chances are they'll want you to go with them and work with them elsewhere. So, you know, what we're doing is opening, you know, people's eyes to a potential education in the business, but then there's the opportunity to work and travel in a very exciting area, but it isn't in any way linked just to being in Shinfield.
And can I ask Nick Patterson-Neil, if I can, just in terms of some of the construction elements that might be going on here, there will be a construction management plan, I'm guessing, and there'll be other elements that will be part of the council's planning conditions and the requirements for the construction of the site, won't there?
That's right. There will be a construction environmental management plan, which would be secured commonly through a planning condition imposed on any permission that's granted. And that will cover the site operations, hours of construction, activity, where materials are stored, where the activity and compound areas exist, and also the routing of vehicles, how they arrive at the site, which direction they potentially come from, etc. So all of that can be encompassed within documentation supporting the application. All planning authorities rightly take a close look at how something might be constructed to ensure that any impacts are minimised and dealt with appropriately. So we would we will be putting forward a comprehensive proposal so that the council can properly assess that. And
in terms of noise and light pollution and those sorts of things, all of those elements will also be covered off, won't they?
Yeah, very much so. There is an environmental impact assessment that will be supporting this planning application that will contain assessments in terms of noise and also air quality. And also there is an external lighting strategy which will detail how where the lighting is, how that will be directioned and light spill minimised. Lighting has come on a long way, as most people will appreciate, in recent years through just normal street lights, and how they're both energy efficient and increasingly able to be directioned to minimise light spill and only illuminate those areas which are essential. So there will be a strategy which supports the application to demonstrate how all of that will work.
And there'll be parking on site, won't there, for the trailers that Nick's described? There'll be parking on site for the I described them, the trailers that are being used in the movie industry. There'll be parking.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say around all of the stages there are sort of apron areas around the stages themselves, generous offset areas to allow manoeuvring space and equipment and all the kit that's necessary to make those productions. So all of that space is built in, if you like, into the design of the scheme.
And the only other question really, I think the main HGV traffic being routed around, that'll be off of that main access, won't it? It won't be through local roads. It will be via the main access to the TVSP on the main roundabout.
Right. Well, that's right. The advantage of these relief road, of course, it then creates a direct route through the new 6-lane overbridge over the M4 to Lower Early Way, and obviously a very direct route straight to junction 11 of the M4. So that's obviously very beneficial in terms of its situation and orientation to the strategic road network, and the relative ease of getting to the site without having to go through the residential area.
And Nick Smith, can I just clarify in terms of when jobs are going to be available, when people might be available to see them coming on stream? It's going to be really when, as things develop, I guess, the studios come in and the production companies come on site, and we see this growth of opportunity as and when, hopefully, if planning permission is granted, and if the site is constructed in the way that's envisaged on the timeline, it'll be over that period really when things will begin to develop, won't it?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think things will really start to take off next year. I think, as we said previously on the temporary application, that we've had to run at this so fast and do so much so quickly just to get ready for it. There hasn't been any real opportunity to start that development aspect of training and actively seeking out people locally. It's something that we need to do when we get into the main application. So it's really post-opening of the temporary phase this year, yes.
And in terms of inclusivity and diversity, that's an important part of your philosophy anyway, isn't it, in terms of the wider community out there? We've got a question regarding, just the inclusiveness of the approach that's being taken, and that is a part of what you're doing, isn't it?
Of course it is. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely. In terms of,
I think generally everybody is aware that the industry itself. I mean, the content creation production industry is very inclusive, and everybody should be aware of that. And there are stated goals and aims to make sure that nobody is excluded.
and another question, a different element here as well, around the digital side of things. That's an important part of the industry, isn't it? But I don't think that wonderful growth of digital technology is amazingly enabling, but it isn't going to take away from the need for a soundstage at the end of the day to have live actors in that way, the green screens and the rest of it. Technology is wonderful, but you still need the actor, don't you, doing the thing, and the crew, the amazing crew, all those people who talk to.
And you need the crew. And I remember 10 years ago when digital was really came to the fore, and everybody said that filmmaking was dead, and there was a period where Kodak stopped making film stock for film, and then directors said, well, actually the quality just isn't as good and we're going back to film. And when you go back to film, you've got to make the film set. You can't just rely on a green screen or a blue screen. You physically need the prop to make the actor feel like he's in the scene. So no, I don't see it going away anytime soon. And if I thought that was going to happen for a minute, we wouldn't be talking about building big sound stages.
And will local people be able to get a tour of the site? Will it be open at points to conducted tours?
Yes, it will be at fairly limited points throughout the year, but yes, the intention is that we work with productions, and when there is anything of note that we're able to share, we absolutely will do. And again, I think to start with, what I want to see though is more, rather than just saying, well, we're having an open day. What I want to do is to make sure that productions that we have in are, we're attracting, for example, the schools and kids that might want to get into the industry. If we're going to open it up and show people around, what I want to do is to make sure that it's the youngsters that are given the opportunities that we can take around and show. But yes, I suspect that there will be, if we can get one open day a year, that would be great. But it's going to be limited.
And in terms of the feedback, in terms of what we're looking for over the next 2 years, there's a process of engagement that you're going to be going through, isn't there? And people are saying about, how can we support from here on in? What can we do to support you going forward? And, what's the engagement going to be like going forward, and how will residents be kept informed? We've done 2 of these events. We've done a newsletter already. We're looking to do outreach into the schools and the colleges. There's a whole public engagement strategy that the council will want the team to sign off on. So there's a whole range of activities that will be going on in the local community as time goes on, and that will be timetabled, and we can promote that, and that's really, really important. But also, just in terms of the specific application, one of the most important things that people can do is to write a support of the application. Now, the application hasn't gone in yet, but it will be going in, and we'll let people know that. But the context of it is look for it on the council's website, and actually write a letter of support, give the support there to the application, because that will help the situation as things move forward. I think that's a fair way of asking for your support in the short term, but in the longer term, there will genuinely be ongoing engagement that you as residents, also schools and others, can get involved with. This is just a waypoint along that route, isn't it, really? I think Nick has a fair point.
That's right, Paul. Yes.
What, in terms of, everyone said about, what's the end goal, what's the big thing for Shinfield Studios? I mean, this is such a major project for you. This is an absolute putting Shinfield on the map in terms of the global film industry and the opportunities that are there. You know, I mean, your ambition is tremendous for what you want to achieve. And the people are saying, you know, what's the end goal for Shinfield Studios in all of this? What do you see as being the big thing, the USP of Shinfield Studios?
Well, we're looking for Shinfield Studios to really be a centre of excellence in the UK. What we're trying to do is to design a film studio that's fit for purpose for the 21st century. If you think about some of the other studios in the UK, so look at Pinewood, I mean, that's 90 years old now, so it's not really fit for purpose. Yes, there is a new part to Pinewood, but some of the old historical parts are a little bit tired. Leavesden Studios, the Harry Potter Studios, was really by and large built around an old aircraft engine factory, but we're able to start something from the ground up, which is really exciting. Apart from the Sky Studios, which are being built at the moment over in Elstree, this is the only other project of this scale in the UK that, as I say, is fit for purpose. But unlike Sky, where that studio is really going to be for Sky-related companies, we want to welcome everybody. We want to be known as the studio that really is doing something different for the UK. And as I say, it will be the centre of excellence for the UK. And we've got a blank sheet of paper at the moment, so we can create something that's fit for purpose and for everybody to be proud of. And that's our ambition.
Thank you very much, Nick, and thank you to everybody. I mean, we wanted to try to feed back to you this evening where things have got to thus far and where they're going forward with the main application. This is certainly the continuation of a conversation with you all. And in doing that, we just want to say thank you to the following groups for their support thus far as well. So thank you to the Parish Council, thank you to the Council, the University of Reading, the LEP, the British Film Commission and the government for their support thus far, but also to all of you. And it is really important to us to take you with us on this journey. It really is going to be a journey, and it's going to develop and evolve as we go through. You've asked us lots of questions this evening, and we're going to do our best to come back to you on them so that we can answer your questions. We've tried to go through them in general terms this evening, but the specific ones you have asked us, we will do our best to answer. And if you have any questions beyond this, if you have any thoughts that you come to after the event, you can download the presentation from here on this system now, if you've been downloading it, as my colleague said earlier. But if not, you can contact us and we can send you it. In terms of any questions that you may have going forward and our contact details, don't hesitate to get in touch. We will be conducting more consultation. There will be more engagement as we go forward and more information being given out as we develop the whole scheme, as the things move forward. So this, as I say, is just a waypoint in that process. In terms of timescales, we are looking to the timescale that we set out in terms of complete construction to 2023, but things will move from hopefully from here on in. And in terms of any of the other major points that have been raised this evening, we really want to talk to you about those on a one-to-one basis. So we'll come back to you and hopefully a future event as well. But thank you so much for coming along this evening. We really do appreciate your time that you've given up this evening to enable us to present to you where we've got to thus far. And thank you very much. And please don't hesitate to keep in touch with us, because we want to keep in touch with you. So thank you very much this evening, and I really appreciate your attendance. Nick and the team are really grateful for it. Nick, do you have any final words just before we finish the evening?
No, thank you, everybody. We, as Paul says, we will try to get back to you with specific questions and whether to answer the questions that you've specifically asked us quickly. As Paul says, if there is anything else, please don't hesitate to contact us, and we will do our best to get back to you as quickly as we can. But thank you all for your support this evening, and I hope to meet many of you in the near future. So thank you.